Hey, good evening. I'm Gadi Schwartz coming to you from Los Angeles, and we've got some new video tonight showing the moment that a Delta plane turned upside down after landing. This video taken from the cockpit of another flight close by, all giving a little more insight into exactly what went wrong. And President Trump is in Mar-a-Lago signing executive orders and repeating his claim that the war in Ukraine could have been wrapped up a long time ago.
This could have been settled very easily. Just a half-baked negotiator could have settled this years ago.
Plus, we've got a verdict in the assault trial of A$AP Rocky, which could see the rapper and partner to Rihanna go away for a long time. Those are just some of the stories we're following tonight. There is still so much more to unpack, so let's get going, because this is Stay Tuned Now. And tonight we are starting with a better understanding of what went so horribly wrong as that Delta flight crash landed in Toronto after some very clear video of the moment that plane touched down, then skidded upside down and was engulfed in smoke and flames. Take a look at this. Oh, no. As you've probably seen from all of the video that's been posted since then, inside the plane, passengers were left upside down, still strapped in their seats. The Delta crew's heroic actions were also captured on cell phone video. Take a look.
Everything, drop it. Come on. Don't take your video. Take that phone away. No.
Holy. Investigators today pointing out the extreme weather conditions in the days before the crash. At least 21 people were hurt, but all 80 people on board did survive. Now, 2 runways in Toronto are still closed right now. And this is the latest in a string of aviation accidents involving U.S. planes in recent weeks, including deadly crashes in Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, Alaska, and Arizona. And NBC's Antonia Hilton is out there in Toronto. Antonia, thanks for being with us. Investigators, I know that they're pointing to extreme conditions leading up to the crash, but are they blaming the snow or the wind at this point? Because that landing looked just hard and fast.
It definitely was. But look, at this point, they are urging people to be careful, not to speculate. They say there's a lot they still do not know. What we do know tonight, though, is that investigators were able to get a voice recorder out of the cockpit and a data recorder, and that they've sent that to a lab. That is going to give us a lot more information in the coming hours and days. For at least 48 hours, the plane is going to remain behind me here on the tarmac as it is, so that investigators from Canada, from the U.S., and also representatives from Delta can be here on the ground doing the necessary research to better understand what happened here. But it appears this is going to be a story, Gadi, that is multifactorial. So that may mean that there are several parts to this story, whether that's a challenge the pilot faced, whether that involves winds here. We do know from the Weather Service that they were at 40 miles per hour yesterday. There was a -2-degree wind chill, and that there was snow in the air. We've seen those very same conditions all throughout the day today. And because that plane is still taking up space on the runway, we know it's also going to continue to cause problems, delays, possible cancellations still at this airport for a couple days to come, Gadi.
And the videos, some of the videos that we've been seeing from these passengers, it's like anyone's worst nightmare that travels. But what does it show us about what we should do in an emergency like that?
Well, I can tell you my main takeaway is you really do have to wear your seatbelt on these flights, because that was the difference for people there. And listening to the crew, basic instructions, things like if something goes wrong and you need to evacuate, leave your belongings behind. Critical moments there where you need to follow those instructions. Our team spoke with people who were on that flight who described hanging like bats, essentially, and having to release themselves from their seatbelts. When they got to the scene, the first responders found people who had back sprains, some head injuries. 21 people were transported to hospitals. Thankfully, 19 of them were released this morning, and people appear to be in good shape now. But so much of that is because they followed the instructions of the crew and the fast action of first responders on the scene. So I know I am going to be doing what I am told on future flights, because it seems like that's what has made the difference and allowed 80 people to leave this surreal scene almost, I mean, comparatively and virtually untouched. Gadi.
Yeah, quite the miracle out there in Toronto. Antonia Hilton, thanks so much. And taking another look at that landing, we've slowed it down and we've done some side-by-side comparisons of the same kind of jet as CRJ 900 on approach. Much different conditions there. Now, on the left, obviously the Delta flight yesterday, it looks like there was no flare. That is the aviation term for kind of raising the jet's nose up, almost floating just before touchdown. On the right, you see that slight tilt up. That's what landings are usually supposed to look like. Joining us now is Jeff Huddleston. He's a commercial airline pilot. Welcome, Jeff. What do you see as far as the landing goes? Does this look like something mechanical or maybe pilot error? And would weather be a factor here? Like, why didn't we see that flare?
Well, far from me to guess what what the pilots were doing, but from the videos that I can see, it's very possible that they intentionally did not flare. Frequently, when you have icy weather, which obviously they had, you do want to land a little firmer than you might ordinarily. That's the purpose of that is to dispense some of the energy of the aircraft and to keep it from sliding down the down the runway. If you can eliminate some of that energy in the landing, now usually there's a little bit of flare. It also looks as though they dipped the right wing just a touch, and it may have got a gust of wind that caused that right wing tip to catch, and that would have initiated this problem.
It is such a modern marvel that, you're coming down in crosswinds, even when you're flying, and you're like, that wing looked like it got pretty low there. Now, the big question that so many people have as they see this one is there a common denominator between this and any of the other crashes that we've seen over the last few weeks? And I don't know, is there a solution out there that would possibly help across the board?
That's a tough question that the FAA and pilots themselves have been asking themselves for decades at this point. I'm only familiar with the accident in Washington, D.C. and this accident, and I would not say that there was any correlation between those two. I'm not familiar with the other two aircraft accidents you mentioned, but pilot attentiveness is always the number one key.
And one of the things we've seen is SpaceX is getting tours of air traffic control systems, according to the Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy. And then it brings up the question of, like, how complicated is what SpaceX has done compared to what the FAA does every day? Not to diminish either one, but is it apples and oranges here if, those who are involved in SpaceX end up tweaking things over at the FAA?
It may be a little bit of fruit salad. Obviously, SpaceX is dealing in the national airspace, and that's obviously controlled by the FAA. But they're in the airspace for a very short period of time relative to a commercial aircraft, which spends hours in it. So I'm sure their engineers are familiar with the operations and the regulations in the FAA. But as to whether there's a direct correlation, probably not as closely as other comparisons.
And one of the biggest criticisms that we keep hearing of the FAA is the lack of modernization when it comes to everything from the radar to even heads-up displays in modern commercial jets. How much of our air traffic system should be modernized? Well, obviously, with the money and the time, it should all be modernized. But I think the FAA suffers from the same problem that many of us did in the computer age when no sooner did you buy your computer and it was outdated with new technology. There's certainly new and better technology that is available, and I believe the FAA is doing modernizations as they can, but it's billions and billions of dollars, if not trillions, to refab the whole entire FAA system. So I believe they're in the works of that, but there's always better technology available. No sooner would they install the new technology and there'd be better technology. So they're a little bit behind the eight ball no matter what they do. And what are the dangers when it comes to modernizing while planes are still flying every single second of every single day?
Minimal. There's always going to be, there's currently, we're testing new systems now in which they implement the system, and they'll have a test period in which the old system is still operating, but the new system is in effect under a test regime. And we're doing that now as we update the systems, and both systems operate. And once they've passed the test system, they're usually integrated. But no system is perfect. We'd like to believe it is. But again, it all boils down to the pilot see and avoid.
And finally, I mean, as an aviator, when it comes to conflicts of interest and how those can be navigated, do you see any conflicts of interest between SpaceX being involved or possibly being involved in how the FAA goes forward and what the next 4 years are going to look like?
I don't know enough about SpaceX operations to really comment, but I would say there's always an opportunity for conflict, but I would think that it would be minimal.
Got it. Jeff Huddleston, thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
And we're following some breaking news in the felony trial of rapper A$AP Rocky. Jurors here in Los Angeles have found him not guilty to 2 felony counts of assault with a semi-auto firearm. The moment the verdict was read in the courtroom got pretty dramatic. Take a look.
Not guilty.
Jumping over to hug somebody there, the rapper whose real name is Rakeem Myers was facing up to 24 years in prison over the 2021 incident where he fired a gun or alleged to have fired a gun at a former friend. He pleaded not guilty to the charges. He declined to testify. Now, Myers also is famously the longtime partner of pop star Rihanna, who looked like was there right when the verdict was read. NBC's Liz Kreutz joins us now on set. Liz, this all happened at the beginning of the show. Yeah. I didn't get a clear look. Like, is he jumping over that?
That's
to
what it
hug
looks
Rihanna?
like, right? It looks like we know Rihanna's there. We know she's periodically been coming to this trial over the past 3 weeks. It looked like she was there in the front row, and it did look like he was jumping into her arms and hugging her.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And what this decision? What does this come down to?
So ultimately, what happened? It comes down to an incident that happened on November 6, 2021, between A$AP Rocky and his former friend, who goes by A$AP Relly. And what A$AP Relly was alleging was that A$AP Rocky fired 2 shots at him with a semi-automatic weapon and a firearm. And what A$AP Rocky was saying was that it was a prop gun, that it was fake, and that it was not. It was something he had picked up as a prop at a music video.
And no bullets came out.
And no bullets,
according to him. Yeah.
Yeah. So, or blanks came out. And so, really, the jury had to decide. It was 7 women, 5 men, whether or not it was a real gun or a fake gun. If they did ultimately believe that it was a real gun, they also could have decided that he acted in self-defense. But unanimously, after just 3 hours of deliberation today, the jury has decided that he's not guilty.
Yeah, pretty quick verdict and a very dramatic end there. Liz, thank you.
Thank you.
And winter weather is carrying a 1-2 punch tonight. Millions from the Canadian border down to southern Texas are facing brutal, potentially life-threatening cold weather. And in the middle of all that, a winter storm is hitting millions from the Central Plains to the Carolina coast. And that's including Kentucky, which is still reeling from disastrous flooding that has killed at least 14 people. NBC's Shaquille Brewster is tracking it all tonight.
Another brutal round of winter weather tonight sweeping across the country. Heavy wind and up to a foot of snow blanketing Missouri. In Kansas City, this truck jackknifed in the storm. Firefighters in Minnesota struggling with wind chills of 40 below, their equipment and lines freezing. In Detroit, a water main break forced families out into the cold amid freezing temperatures Monday after a 4.5-foot wide pipe failed, swamping an entire neighborhood.
Face feels like it's freezing.
Wind chills in Chicago hitting 23 degrees below zero.
It's brutal. It gets icy out here.
As the Arctic blast expands, it will plunge much of the country into bone-chilling cold, with parts of the Midwest bracing for as much as a foot of snow.
This is a snowstorm in the middle of a natural disaster.
Kentucky can see up to 6 inches. A new threat as towns have barely started recovering from historic winter floods. Heavy rain pushed the Kentucky River into much of downtown Beattyville.
We got the flood first, and we're trying to clean up, and the cold, frigid temperatures and the snow's coming later today. So we're doing the best we can.
14 people have lost their lives in Kentucky, including 73-year-old Donald Nicholson, whose family says his truck stalled along a highway during a flash flood.
I can't tell you over the years the times I've saw him see somebody out in the street needing a few dollars or whatever the case may be. He had the ability to help them. He would without a second thought.
The tragic and unrelenting pace of winter weather not letting up. And back here in Beattyville, this street was one of the 300 that this morning across the state was completely closed off. We saw it completely covered in mud. But tonight, Main Street is back open, but people are going through, rushing to clean up ahead of another round of winter weather. Back to you.
And parts of Texas could get the coldest weather of the year so far from that Arctic blast. NBC's Priscilla Thompson joins us now from a very chilly Dallas. Priscilla, is Texas ready for how cold it's about to get there?
Yeah, cities are preparing, people are preparing because that cold weather is coming in. Just in the past few hours we've been out here, the temperature has started to drop and it is only going to continue to go down overnight into tomorrow. We are talking about temperatures in the teens and it's going to feel like the single digits, and that is colder than any weather that places like Dallas, where we are, have seen so far this year. And so we've heard a lot from officials emphasizing the 4 Ps: people, pets, plants, and pipes. Make sure that you get somewhere warm. There are warming centers that are opening here and also in Houston. Make sure that your pets are somewhere warm. Be sure to wrap your pipes or leave them dripping so that they don't freeze. And of course, cover those plants so that those are able to stay alive as well. And the other thing officials are watching is the roads, because with this cold weather, we could see some freezing rain and the potential for ice. So we've seen workers out salting the roads. Some of the expressways are closed down in anticipation of this wintry mix. So urging people to just be a little extra careful tomorrow as they're out and about, because that winter weather, those cold temps are moving in.
Oh, yeah. And it does seem like yesterday, but I know it's been like 4 years since that power outage that hit Texas in the middle of dangerously cold weather then. Are people worried about a do-over of that?
You know, Gadi, that is something that I think is always on people's minds, especially for folks who lived through it. There were people who lost their lives during that 2021 freeze. But the difference here is that it's not as wide a swath of the state that is going to be experiencing this cold weather. And so we know that the grid operator has issued a weather watch saying that demand is going to be high, but they're saying that the grid is going to be able to operate as normal. The grid has been weatherized in the years since that winter storm. And so they're saying that they believe that it's going to hold. But of course, for anyone who lived through that, it's certainly something on people's minds. But a lot of folks that we've spoken to throughout these past several rounds of cold weather have said they feel pretty confident in the grid right now.
Well, I'm glad to see that you were prepared and you're double down there out in Dallas, of all places. Priscilla Thompson, thank you, and stay warm. And today, more executive orders and seismic proclamations coming from President Trump at Mar-a-Lago. Everything from an oversight power play, government cuts, to a diplomatic roller coaster with Russia and Ukraine, to IVF access. The president has now signed almost 70 executive orders since taking office 3 weeks ago. And today, the biggest barrage of questions had to do with Russia and Ukraine, where it looked like he was pointing fingers at Ukraine for the lack of a peace deal.
I think I have the power to end this war, and I think it's going very well. But today I heard, oh, well, we weren't invited. Well, you've been there for 3 years. You should have ended it 3 years. You should have never started it. You could have made a deal.
And our friend Vaughn Hilliard is here with us now to break down all the Washington of this. And of course, in a little bit, we're also going to be talking to Keir Simmons for more on the negotiations that Ukraine was not invited to. But Vaughn, starting with the big picture here, I mean, it seems like we're seeing a really big shift in the tone from the White House when it comes to what's said publicly and what's said privately. Publicly, is Trump backing Russia or Ukraine here?
Gadi, he's hedging his bets for Russia here in a very transparently public way. This is not the President of the United States conveying a message through private channels to Ukraine of pessimism. Instead, hear from his Mar-a-Lago estate just this afternoon, he audibly suggested that Ukraine had started the war, which of course is not fact. It was Russia that unilaterally launched missiles into Ukraine and has been the one responsible for engaging in trying to take over Ukraine for the last 3 years. But even was suggesting that President Zelensky of Ukraine, in his words, has 4% approval rating, which There is nothing that actually backs up that claim. The President of the United States suggesting that essentially Ukrainian cities are demolished and there's nothing much left of them, really casting a very skeptical view of Ukraine, and effectively at a time in which negotiations are so crucial, suggesting that Ukraine has a lot more to lose here. And really, for Europeans, the EU, casting a lot of doubt for them about the extent to which President Trump and the United States will be a continued partner in the region.
And in that press conference today, I mean, he covered a lot of ground. He claimed also that there were millions of people over the age of 130 who were receiving Social Security benefits. That's a claim that's been going super viral. Is that really happening right now?
Not that we're aware of, Gadi, and it's not clear where President Trump or Elon Musk or others that are promoting that theory are getting that information or evidence from. That has not been made available. Instead, just in December, those are the latest statistics that we have, there were about 90,000 Americans over the age of 100 who were receiving Social Security payments. Again, 90,000 individuals over 100 receiving Social Security payments. Well, how many Americans over 100 are there? There's about 105,000. So, well, the database over at the Social Security Administration does continue to have millions of individuals who have long been deceased still on them. There is no proof that there is a grand number, millions or even tens of thousands of them, that are still receiving Social Security payments despite being dead.
Minus what look like screenshots that are turning into memes that are being spread online, right?
That's right. And this is where I think it's worth quoting Elon Musk directly. Last week, he was in the Oval Office and he was confronted about something that he had said as it pertained to USAID sending condoms to Gaza. And the statement that he had made was not factual and not accurate. And when a reporter confronted him about that, Elon Musk acknowledged that not everything he posts on social media ends up being exactly accurate, but that he's starting the conversation and that ultimately they'll determine whether it's accurate in the long run. And so that's the difficult part, is so much of this is pulling some data where, you're seeing some of these numbers here, but it's not always an accurate representation of the reality.
Yeah, we are in an age of receipts all over the place. We just can't figure out where a lot of them are coming from and what they're for. Yvonne, finally, what's the latest on this new executive order on IVF today?
Well, candidate Trump last year, he announced that whether it be insurers or the federal government, that all IVF care for any American that wanted it would be fully funded and covered. IVF access would be wholly free. Of course, we're talking about tens of thousands of dollars IVF treatment. And today, in an executive order, President Trump, he signed this order that, we should be clear, did not provide free IVF care to Americans. Instead, it called on his Domestic Policy Council to find ways to make it more affordable for more Americans. We're talking about billions of dollars, if not only for those who receive IVF care, but especially understanding that if Americans who may be seeking that form of care in order to expand their families, and it wouldn't cost you tens of thousands of dollars, which a lot of Americans don't have access to, understanding that that would be quite a share of the federal budget to add that on. And so he has not fulfilled that campaign promise, but today, this afternoon, signing an executive order indicating that it's still on his mind, and he'll seek ways to make it more affordable for more Americans. Gadi.
Vaughn Hilliard out there in Florida for us. Vaughn, thank you. And as all that is happening at Mar-a-Lago in Washington, we are seeing more and more high-profile resignations at agencies overseeing Social Security and food safety. And it comes as more federal workers are bracing for even more firings this week. NBC's Kelly O'Donnell has more.
Tonight, making his Mar-a-Lago club the backdrop for official business. The president defended steep cuts to federal programs and spending and praised the billionaire advisor Elon Musk, who is dismantling parts of the government.
Elon is, to me, a patriot. So, you could call him an employee, you could call him a consultant, you could call him whatever you want, but he's a patriot.
asked if he has any concerns about specific firing decisions, including a move to rehire fired employees who oversee the nuclear stockpile.
No, not at all. I think we have to just do what we have to do. It's, it's amazing what's been found.
New details tonight on the federal workforce shakeup, from big resignations to thousands of civil servants fired, prompting a fierce defense from White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller.
Then why are you not celebrating these cuts? If you agree there is waste, if you agree there is abuse, if you agree there is corruption, why are you not celebrating the cuts?
Conflict leads to a top official quitting at the Social Security Administration. Acting Commissioner Michelle King, a 30-year veteran, resigned after two sources said she refused access to sensitive Social Security records, such as citizens' financial and medical information, to the DOJ government efficiency team. The White House confirmed the resignation and said the president wants the most qualified individuals, not to appease the bureaucracy. At the Food and Drug Administration, the division chief over safety of the country's food supply resigned. At the Department of Homeland Security, a new round of terminations is expected among hundreds of high-level civil servants, at odds with the administration's goals, according to three sources familiar with the matter.
Listen to these numbers. This is all fraud.
President Trump read from pages of spending that he called fraud and corruption, but provided no evidence.
Kelly O'Donnell, thank you so much. And here are some of the other headlines that we're watching tonight. Today, New York Governor Kathy Hochul held a bunch of meetings on the future of New York City Mayor Eric Adams. She met with key leaders as she tries to decide whether to remove Adams from office. Now, this comes as several of Adams's deputies have resigned in recent days, and as a judge set a hearing tomorrow on that case. Last week, the mayor agreed to give ICE access to New York's Riker Island jail as the DOJ moved to dismiss criminal charges against him. And New Jersey transit riders had a rough day as service on one of the lines was suspended because of a train derailment. A freight train somehow jumped the tracks this morning, and that line eventually got back up and running with limited service while they brought in buses to make up for the service losses. And Southwest Airlines is slashing 15% of its corporate workforce. Now, that equals out to about 1,700 jobs, and it is unprecedented for the airline. It's the first time ever that they've had major layoffs. The company says the move is to try to lower costs. And in Pennsylvania, an aerospace factory goes up in flames. Now, this happened overnight, and people say they heard a loud explosion. No one was hurt, and everyone inside got out okay, but schools in the nearby area were closed today. And actor Guy Pearce is claiming House of Cards actor Kevin Spacey targeted him when the two were filming the 1997 movie L.A. Confidential. We're talking about it in an interview. Pearce seemed hesitant to use the word victim, but then went on to say, quote, even though I probably was a victim to a degree, Spacey responded in a video on X telling Pearce to grow up while denying the claims. And don't go anywhere. We are just getting started. Up next, an update on the Pope after developing pneumonia in both lungs. And later this hour, in the future of everything, flying cars might not just be science fiction. We're going to show you what this is all about. So stay tuned. Hey, welcome back. Right now, there are some high-level talks going on between American and Russian officials over ending the war in Ukraine, and those talks are taking place in Saudi Arabia. But notably missing from those talks is Ukrainians at the table. Chief International Correspondent Keir Simmons has the very latest.
Well, it's been a stunning day here in Riyadh, and President Trump topping it off by saying that he is more confident as a result of these talks, that he thought the talks were good, as well as criticizing Ukraine and President Zelensky for not doing a deal earlier. The talks themselves did not reach a conclusion on when there might be a summit between Presidents Putin and Trump, did not set a date for a ceasefire, despite, of course, President Trump saying during the election campaign that he would be able to achieve that very quickly. But surprisingly, perhaps, not just focusing these talks today on the potential for a ceasefire, but also on normalization of relations between the United States and between Russia. So, for example, one of the proposals from the team led by Secretary of State Marco Rubio is that there could be agreement, there could be more cooperation between Russia and the US on geopolitics and on economics. That suggests that the Trump administration might be prepared to lower or even drop sanctions. What will that mean for relations between the US and Europe? Because both, of course, have been allied in the sanctions against Russia so far. These talks today unlocking the isolation campaign against Moscow that Washington has been leading for years since Russia's illegal invasion of Ukraine. Today, the Russians look pretty pleased. President Zelensky saying he, though, will not sign up to any deal that he has not been part of the negotiations for.
Keir Simmons, thank you. And let's take a quick look around the world. Today, the Vatican is saying Pope Francis's health issues are a little more complex than we thought. A follow-up CT scan has revealed the Pope has pneumonia in both lungs after dealing with a respiratory tract infection. Now, this comes as the Pope has dealt with a few health issues in recent years. Francis remains in the hospital tonight, but his office says he is in good spirits. And Hamas says it will release the last 6 remaining hostages this Saturday. And before that happens, they will return the bodies of 4 others, including the youngest hostage taken, who was just 9 months old at the time. This is all still a part of the ceasefire's first phase. Negotiations in the second phase have not yet started. And a man credited by some as being the world's first openly gay imam was shot to death in South Africa. The country's Human Rights Commission says it happened over the weekend when 2 men came out of a pickup truck and ambushed him, firing several shots through his car window. Police say they still don't know the killer's motive. And Argentina's president is now facing investigations and calls for impeachment after he promoted a little-known crypto coin last Friday that crashed, leading the country's stock market to lose more than 5%. Some crypto experts there say that this was the president trying a rug pull on the markets, but he has denied all allegations. And still to come, the leader of a cult-like group linked to murders was just arrested. We've got the details coming up, so stay tuned. Hey, welcome back. This next story has so many twists and turns it is hard to keep track of, but authorities say there is a cultish group called the Zizians with a leader who was just arrested in Maryland, and their name is Jack LaSoda, who identifies as a woman. It was arrested with 2 others, and they are being investigated for the possible connection to a rash of crimes and some bizarre killings that police are just starting to link together, including a double murder in Pennsylvania. One of the suspects arrested this week was first arrested back in 2023 after her parents were found dead in their home. Another woman linked to the cult was shot and killed last month after being involved in a shootout with the Border Patrol agents in Vermont. One of those agents, David Malland, was shot and killed. Let's get right over to NBC's David Noriega to break this down, figure out what the heck is going on here. So, David, first off, who are the Zizians and what is this cult all about?
Yeah, so here's what we know about the Zizians. This alleged leader of the gang, Jack LaSoda, she comes from this world that's kind of peripheral to the tech world in the Bay Area, right? It's a group of people that is very fixated on artificial intelligence and the potential dangers of artificial intelligence and have sort of, grandiose ideas about saving humanity from the dangers of AI. It emerged from a group, a not nefarious, a pretty sort of, normal group out of Berkeley called the Center for Applied Rationality. Now, LaSoda allegedly took some of those ideologies far to the fringe. And the group of people who, according to people who know them, follow her are, among other things, vegan, many of them, and involved in various ways in tech. And again, particularly interested in this question of artificial intelligence. Now, what our colleague Rich Shapiro, an investigative reporter for NBC, has found is that LaSoda also, among other things, dresses in dark robes and identifies as a Sith, as in the
Sith Lord.
The Sith Lord from Star Wars. Yeah, exactly. The sort of religious figures around the villains in Star Wars.
Not to diminish this, but Sith Lords are vegan. This is a confluence of a lot of different ideologies here.
Yeah, look, it's all over the place. The thing that is consistent is that it is a cult of personality around LaSoda, right? It appears so far to be a relatively small group of followers who are nevertheless willing to go to some pretty extreme lengths in the name of whatever ideology it is that they subscribe to, including getting involved in this shootout with a Border Patrol agent in Vermont.
And again, to emphasize here, like there are murder investigations that are happening right now. Are they specifically linked, or are they still people of interest when it comes to the members and these crimes?
Look, that is the big question, and there are definitely links between these different crimes. For example, that double murder in Philadelphia that you mentioned, Rita and Richard Zajko, their daughter, Michelle Zajko, was just charged with purchasing the firearm that was used in that shootout in Vermont. There's an additional murder in California that some of the people in this kind of, small group are also alleged to have been involved in. The big question is Lasota, the alleged leader of this group. According to people who know them, again, kind of indisputably the leader of this group. Can that or will that translate to, in a prosecution, being able to pin some of these more serious offenses, particularly the ones having to do with murders, with killings, on Lasota, regardless of whether she was the material author of the crimes? That could potentially, raise some tricky legal questions moving forward.
And I hate to overgeneralize here, but like some of this feels like the modern day version of Helter Skelter. And yet, ideologies are posted online these days. A lot of this is happening before the investigation can even keep up. Is that what seems like is happening here?
It's a very good question, and I think some of the legal questions that I'm asking about this case are, in fact, do come from cases like the Manson murders, right? Specifically the question of whether a, cult-like leader can be held criminally liable for acts committed by others. Right. Look, this is, let me just put it this way. I'm looking forward to the 7-part Netflix documentary series about this, for example, because I think there is a lot to learn about who these people are and what motivates them and how far it is that this, this weird grouping of ideologies has led them to go.
And how the Sith are somehow connected to AI and veganism. It is wild. Please come back and tell us what happens next. Thank you so much, David. And coming up, well, no more texting in the classroom. LA's cell phone ban just went into effect for students. But first, you gotta see this. This is a man driving home on I-5 in Sacramento when his dash cam caught this crazy moment here. Another car flew off the overpass, landed right into the middle of the freeway. Look at that. Miraculously, no one was hurt by that car, and the driver was the only person that was hurt. The driver who took that video says he felt like he won the lottery, considering just how bad all of it could have been. We'll be right back. Hey, welcome back. Last month's deadly wildfires here in California brought in firefighters from all over, including the federal level. And now President Trump's hiring freeze seems to have stalled the onboarding process across federal firefighting agencies, which is raising concerns about how all of that could impact the next wildfire season that we've got here. It's just a few months away now. NBC's Jacob Soboroff has more.
The danger of wildfire couldn't have been any lower when we visited the Columbia River Gorge in the middle of a winter storm last week. But that's exactly why U.S. Forest Service firefighting Captain Ben McLean wanted to bring us to Southwest Washington, where he fought the Tunnel 5 fire in the summer of 2023.
This isn't national forest, though, is it?
No, it's not.
Why do you guys show up and respond here?
Well, we're a part of our nation's promise to the public to respond to wildfire emergencies.
That promise might be getting harder to keep, as President Trump's hiring freeze has thousands of federal seasonal firefighters in limbo at a time when onboarding for the next fire season should have already started.
So by the time you made it here, this house was already up in flames.
It was in the process of burning down. I have firefighters who I should be bringing on, and I'm not able to.
You can't hire people even if you want to right now.
No, I can't.
Why are you thinking about hiring firefighters right now? Look at this.
Yeah, this is the time of year where we're training, we're preparing, we're getting the qualifications that we need to answer the call to service when the summer does come.
The U.S. Forest Service, the Bureau of Land Management, and the National Park Service employ more than 15,000 career and temporary firefighters. A crew from the Forest Service was credited with saving this neighborhood during the Eaton Fire in Los Angeles County. It was a federal crew, like the one McLean's a part of, where any delay in the lengthy onboarding process can affect the readiness of the team.
Is there a message that you want, whether it's President Trump or other people in this administration, to hear and to understand about what you see as the urgency of this moment?
I'd like them to ask the firefighters what they think, because we don't have any skin in this game other than public service.
Over a dozen U.S. senators have called for firefighters to be exempted. pausing the hiring and onboarding of federal seasonal firefighters is simply irresponsible and dangerous.
Our nation's wildfire response system transcends politics because wildfire transcends politics. And it's the right thing to do, to bring on firefighters and ensure that the public is getting the service that they deserve and that they pay for.
Even as the snow falls and alarms sounding about fires to come. Jacob Soberoff, NBC News, Skamania County, Washington.
Jacob, thank you. And here's some stories happening out west that we're following right now. Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco has announced he will run for California governor next year. The Trump-supporting candidate is the first major Republican to join the race to replace Newsom. Now, the governor is currently in his second, which means last term. And Bianco joins a crowded field of Democrats that are vying for that seat. And no more cell phones for L.A. students. Los Angeles Unified School District's Board of Education passing that ban last year, but the superintendent says some schools are now using the honor system to enforce the new rule, while others are asking students to put phones in those magnetically sealed pouches during the day. And several earthquakes shaking the New Mexico-Texas border, a 4.7 magnitude taking place around 50 miles away from Carlsbad this morning. That's according to the USGS, and this one on top of a couple of smaller ones hitting the area earlier as well. And before we go, it is time for the future of everything. You know those noise-canceling headphones you love wearing so you can actually focus? Well, doctors are now saying they could maybe cause some medical issues. Dr. Akshay Sayal is here to break it all down next. Hey, welcome back. Are noise-canceling headphones rewiring our brains? Are flying cars real yet? Are we going to get hit by an asteroid? Before we find out all that, here's some future of everything headlines that we're going to get to. An AI war? Well, yeah, we've seen those heating up, and now there's one with Elon Musk snagging the top spot. His company, XAI, just dropped its newest model, Grok 3. Now, Musk is claiming it could do better than rivals OpenAI and DeepSeek on several AI benchmarks. Premium X users and special tier app members can get access. And remember that asteroid that could hit Earth in 2032? So on January 29th, NASA said that the odds of impact were just over 1%. Then on February 7th, it jumped up to 2.3%. And now odds are like 3.1%, which technically are the same odds as flipping a coin heads up 5 times in a row. But this thing is the size of the Statue of Liberty. It wouldn't end civilization, but things will definitely get toasty around here. And they are working on getting a better look with the James Webb Space Telescope, so hopefully we'll know a little more soon. And you know how some of our devices, they warn us when things get too loud so that we could protect our precious hearing. And of course, you've got noise cancellation that helps us block out the noisy world out there. Well, what if the headphones that we are using can actually cause problems with how we process sounds? Well, the UK's National Health Society found a disturbing trend with young people using noise-canceling headphones, and the problem does not lie with our ears, but rather our brains, apparently causing people to have auditory processing disorders. So what does that mean? We're going to bring in Dr. Akshay Sayal. He is here in the studio to explain all of this. First off, Akshay Sayal, you've got a case right there.
Guilty as charged. I have noise canceling headphones. I've been using noise canceling headphones for years, and you know, short answer is I'm not going to stop based on what we're seeing today. But that being said, it is really, really interesting what these audiologists are telling the UK press.
Got it. So you're still using it, but you've read this. What first off, let's just explain the science here. How does our brain process sounds, and what does noise canceling do?
Great question, Gadi. So when things make noise in the world, they create these sound waves, and I think we have an animation here we can play for you in a sec. But these sound waves travel through the ear. They go through the middle ear and then into the inner ear. You can see there on your screen there. And those vibrations from the sound essentially just vibrate different parts of the ear. You can see that's the eardrum there, just that little squishy thing moving. And there's some bones in the ear that are going to start vibrating. And that thing on the right there, that's the cochlea, that's sort of snail-looking thing. So that's, you know, when we talk about noise damage and hearing loss, that's where most of it happens, right? That's the reason we have noise-canceling headphones in the first place, to prevent some of that damage. But Gadi, what we're talking about today is a little bit different. You can see some of those hair cells on the screen there. That's what happens when things are too loud. But what they're saying today in the UK is that there's actually a problem in the brain, not the ear. Sort of like, you know, if you're in a noisy room, kind of telling where that sound is or who is talking. That's more of what we're talking about today, as opposed to dampening everything.
Interesting. And so when the brain is processing this like ambient sound in the background, is that important for like human development?
It is, and you know, a lot of what we're seeing, especially with these AirPods and other headphones, you know, kids are using them in school. Kids in their younger years are using them in school, and so a lot of the alarm today in the UK press is about, you know, if these kids are starting so young, what's going to happen as they develop? Are those parts of the brain going to be shrink or atrophied, or going to be smaller than they should be? And how is that going to affect, you know, their ability to have a conversation sitting here in a room or in a loud room, or sort of be able to pick up different sounds? That's where a lot of the alarm is coming from.
So moderation?
So moderation. You know, I'm not going to stop using noise-canceling headphones. A lot of the noise-canceling headphones we saw today, you know, have a transparency mode or an adaptive mode where you can sort of, you know, play that ambient noise, bring it back into life. Because, you know, if you're walking around in New York City, for example, and you have noise-canceling headphones, that could be a problem if, you know, there's a car coming by and you don't hear it necessarily. So everything in moderation, and it's okay to turn off that noise-canceling feature every now and then.
Yeah, but I feel like you love your noise-canceling, because sometimes we share an office, and I know I had a tendency to mumble.
I got to tune out ambient noise, you know?
There you go. Dr. Akshay Syal, thanks so much for joining us.
Anytime.
Now we might actually be closer than ever to our first actual, oh man, I am stuck in actual traffic, I'll just take off and straight into the sky and fly away kind of car. And Steve Patterson is going to show us how that works.
For all the advances in automotive tech, one issue only seems to be getting worse: gridlocked traffic. But this Silicon Valley startup says the solution comes straight from our imagination: the flying car.
You can actually use it today, and you can cut your commute at least in half, if not more.
Jim Duchovny says his company Aleph Aeronautics was able to create something we've been dreaming about since the Jetsons.
We're trying to make science fiction a reality.
And while not quite ready for the road, Duchovny says the flying car is about to take off. NBC News was given exclusive access to see their concept model with our own eyes.
If everything goes smoothly, I'm going to watch a car fly over another car. We'll see.
Sure enough, we watched it soar through the air over another car and land. But for all the magic of this moment, we were heavily restricted, forced to shoot at least half a football field away, and we never actually saw the driver entering or exiting the vehicle.
But you're not still all the way there yet, because you know, you wouldn't let me in the cockpit yet.
There's a difference between you and the consumers. We still have some IP, intellectual property, which we're trying to protect.
So far, more than 3,200 early adopters have pre-ordered their $300,000 all-electric flying car. And the company is aiming to begin production by next year. But practicality might be where the rubber meets the sky. Only a few countries allow for the kind of road-to-air reality Duchovny envisions.
It's going to be a slow, incremental approach, which is good for legal integration, which is good for consumer integration.
But he says as demand grows, regulations will catch up with the tech. For now, it's still that cutting-edge pie in the sky.
Steve Patterson joins us in the studio, straight back from Half Moon Bay.
That's right.
Steve, hold on. So you said magic in that.
Yeah.
I thought magic, but also like kind of magic trick, David Copperfield. I hate to say it, but like it, you know, it goes up and then it comes down. But everything was so perfectly slow, and then I saw the little line that you were there. How did this go down?
Okay,
like, what could you see?
First of all, thank you to the team at Aleph. Like, I truly believe that these are very smart people who do want to change the world, right? Like, you get that sense from them in speaking to them, their passion. Seeing the demo was one thing, and look, seeing a flying car is still seeing a flying car. It was incredible to see that thing actually go up over another car, land on the ground. However, there were so many restrictions that we were under that sort of dampened the mood, I want to say a little bit. And it did have that magic trick feel. It was almost like I saw David Copperfield as a little boy. My parents took me to this show, and I'm trying to find out, where are the wires, right? And that's the feeling I got after seeing this. I have to be honest. It wasn't sort of like, oh, we're in the future now. It's like, how did they pull this off?
But you and I are probably just bitter because we don't have one of those yet.
Maybe.
They won't let us into the cockpit. But yeah, how far off are we from seeing, I don't know, like cars like this, 405, 101? Like, I would love to just hover home.
Well, the question I have to ask you back is, do you want that over you?
Yes, I was. Are you kidding me? I was Homer Simpson in that first one. Why would you be the first? And I'm like,
exactly. Like, first of all, who wants to be the first? There's me. Broad safety. I'm sure you would. Okay. Besides you, there's broad safety concerns, not only for people in the sky, but also in the ground. They address that, but the regulations aren't there yet, right? This thing has to be certified not only on the ground, but with the FAA in the air. So do you have to have your pilot's license? The FAA is still sorting through some of this stuff. One of the flying car manufacturers actually hired one of the guys from that team to be a part of the FAA team that does these certifications. That's still years off. There's still states that have to certify this. There's what's called the Jetson law in places like Minnesota, New Hampshire, other areas in the country, but it's still so far off because the infrastructure is just not there yet.
It's not there yet. And is there an infrastructure in place, plans at least?
I think they're working on it, and I think the point that these guys have is that, yeah, we know it's not there yet, but our technology will scale up with it. And the point is we need to be on the ground floor to make sure that when it's time for all of this to be ready, that they have the tech ready for it.
Got it. And I mean, so how far do you think we are from?
Oh, man, if we see it in our lifetimes, I would be surprised.
You see it in our lifetimes? Are you kidding me? We are at the cusp of AI.
We are, but we're talking about safety. We're talking about broad regulation. We're talking about the infrastructure to be able to do that safely. I think it's going to be a long, long time before that happens. Not to say we won't see a few sort of ancillary, different technologies. There's one called eVTOL, which is like the air taxi. Right. It's almost like a flying osprey or a flying helicopter that's sort of electric and works with the way the laws are now. And that's from like one helipoint to one helipoint. As far as just like literally, I'm in my car, I'm on the 405, I'm stuck in traffic, I'm going to press a button and lift off into the sky. Come on, man. That's going to be a while. Yeah.
Steve Patterson, thanks so much. That's going to do it for us tonight. I'm Gadi Schwartz. We'll see you here tomorrow. But until then, stay tuned now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.